Biofuels policy is a big-time question for the grain markets. We'll discuss how the Trump administration will change the pathway for biofuels over the next 4 years and potentially longer. And it's Wednesday. That means it's time for this week's Farmer Forum. Let's find out what post-election issues are highest on the priority list.
Live from the soggy sand hills of Hump Day via Farm Journal broadcast, this is AgriTalk. This morning we'll begin with a conversation with Troy Bredenkamp from the Renewable Fuels Association. Then it's our Farmer Forum with panelists Chad Leman and Quentin Bowen. Directly following the news, Margie Eckelkamp from The Scoop. I'm handsome newsman Davis Michelson, and now, here's the host of AgriTalk, Chip Flory.
All right, Davis. Hey, thank you so much, and welcome to AgriTalk. Glad that you are joining us on this Wednesday morning. I'm looking forward to this Farmer Forum today. Well, I'm looking forward to the conversation with Troy, too. But, here we are, post-election. We've had a little time for it to sink in. We've got a couple of people that are, they're thinkers. Most all farmers are thinkers, but these guys, I really appreciate the effort that they put into thinking about the issues, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to have a conversation with Chad and Quentin this morning, so I'm looking forward to that. How you doing, buddy? Soggy,
I'm doing great. It's soggy, 49 degrees. It was raining when the dog and I got up and went outside about 6:30 this morning, and it just keeps coming. Just keeps coming.
Wow.
Super cozy, though. Yeah.
Well, if I look at the radar and the radar tells me correctly, it might be getting close to an end for you. You might be right on the edge of it. But western Iowa's covered up, man.
Yeah.
Some more fall rains, some more desperately needed fall rains that we're picking up here. So this one's filling up the Missouri watershed, and it will eventually help us out on the Mississippi. I don't think there's any question about that. So, dude, if you're ready, let's go ahead and get started because we got a lot of ground that we need to cover this morning.
Yeah, we'll dive in, beginning with the National Weather Service outlook. Showers and thunderstorms to bring locally heavy rainfall to the lower Ohio, Tennessee, and Mississippi valleys today, with the risk for some scattered flash flooding in Louisiana and Mississippi. Above average temperatures continue for much of the central United States and Gulf Coast states, while colder air moves into the Northeast and the West.
Right. Now, when you stretch that forecast out just a little bit and get it to basically 8 days from now, maybe even just a week from right now, there is some development happening out there with the potential for a winter storm in the Midwest. Now, that's going to be influenced by the development of a hurricane in the Caribbean. So there's a lot of things happening on the weather front right now.
Well, Chip, private exporters report the following daily sales activity: 401,000 metric tons of corn for delivery to Mexico during the 24-25 marketing year, and nearly 291,000 metric tons of corn for delivery to unknown during the 24-25 marketing year.
Good corn demand. It should be helping us out more than what it is, that's for sure.
We'll take it. Crop progress report highlights from USDA's Crop Progress and Condition Update November 10. Corn is 95% harvested. That's ahead of 84% on average. Soybeans, 96% harvested, ahead of 91% on average. Cotton, 71% harvested. You guessed it, ahead of average. Winter wheat, 44% good to excellent, 91% planted, and 76% emerged. That emergence on the winter wheat is a little bit behind the average, Chip.
Yeah, just a little bit, but that was some improvement in the condition of the winter wheat crop. So that's got the wheat market under some pressure today, too.
Well, Chip, the U.S. annual inflation rate increased to 2.6% in October, up from 2.4% in September. This marks the first rise in 7 months, and it met market expectations. In October, egg prices declined 6.4% over the month, but this after rising 8.4% in September and 4.8% in August. In October, U.S. sales of ag tractors fell by 14.2%, and combine sales dropped by 34.6% compared to the previous year. This according to the Association of Equipment Manufacturers. AEM's Kurt Blades cited this decline as part of a broader softness in the ag economy after 5 strong years. And Chip, interestingly, Canadian sales also experienced declines, with tractor sales down 15% and combine sales falling 27%.
Yeah, we look for these indicators of just exactly what is happening in the ag economy, and this might be the best indicator of all. Things are slowing down. There's no question.
And speaking of Canada, Ontario Premier Doug Ford has called for Canada to negotiate a bilateral trade agreement with the United States unless Mexico aligns with North American partners on tariffs for Chinese imports. Ford stated that Mexico should match U.S. and Canadian tariffs on Chinese goods or risk exclusion from a trade partnership with the United States. A fascinating wrinkle on trade here, Chip.
Well, and they should, I think this is probably Canada and the U.S. saying, Mexico, come on, look at the science on GMOs. This ban that you are thinking about on GMO white corn, it doesn't make any sense scientifically.
Yep. Well, finally here, currently 428 of the 435 House races have been called, with 219 for Republicans and 209 for Democrats. 218 votes are needed to control the chamber. Currently still uncalled races in Alaska, Maine, California, and, Chip, your own state of Iowa. Over to you, buddy.
Yeah, that race in Iowa should have been called a while ago, is the way it looks to me. It's stuck on 99%. They just need to call that race and get on to the recounts. All right. Thank you, Davis. Let's bring in Margie Eckelkamp, editor of The Scoop. Good morning, Margie.
Good morning, Chip.
All right. Tell me about what's happening up in Minnesota with the co-op, West Central Co-op.
Yeah, so I'm going to quote one of my favorite movies, Princess Bride, and the great actor Wallace Shawn when he says, inconceivable. Okay, so last week there was the big nationwide election and many important races, but there was also a vote coming up for the farmer members of West Central Co-op. This is a 13-location co-op located in Minnesota. Now, West Central this spring had made it known that they were open to bids for acquisition, and CHS put forward a bid, and that was what was coming up for a vote by the members of West Central on November 6th. However, on November 4th, this is where it gets interesting, the folks at Arthur Company made it known that they had also put in a bid, and they made the details of that bid known to the West Central Co-op members via a campaign. And now, West Central has delayed their member vote until the week of Thanksgiving so that they can fully vet this other offer by Arthur Companies, which has been completely and officially resubmitted. And so now those farmer members of West Central have a decision to make here the week of Thanksgiving. Not only is this unique because typically, when a company does not get chosen as the winning bid, they don't reveal themselves. They also don't often mount such a campaign, which then actually brings about a consideration for a delayed vote. But this is a family-owned business owned by the Burgum family out of North Dakota looking to acquire a cooperative. So something to watch.
Something to watch. Absolutely, it's something to watch. This is really, really an interesting development that has happened up there. Margie, thank you. Keep us up to date on what's happening.
All right. Thanks, Chip.
All right. Get more from Margie at www.thedailyscoop.com. We've got Troy Bredenkamp up next.
AgriTalk is brought to you by Winfield United. Improve on-target spray potential by 33% and get stronger ROI with more herbicides delivered to the desired target. Interlock Adjuvant, built for it. Learn more at winfieldunited.com.
10-hour days and I'm tired. Damn this knuckle busting. Welcome back to AgriTalk. I'm your host, Chip Flory. Glad that you are with us on this Wednesday morning. We're getting ready for the Farmer Forum coming up at the bottom of the hour. And to help set the stage for that and to give us some insight into what's happening in the biofuels industries right now, Troy Bredenkamp, Senior VP for Government and Public Affairs at the Renewable Fuels Association. Troy, it's good to talk to you again. How are you?
Chip, happy to be with you. Doing pretty good. Sun is shining here in the swamp, and a lot of activity going on right now.
Boy, there certainly is. As a matter of fact, what's happening right now is it looks like President-elect Trump is in the Oval Office with President Biden. So the meeting at the White House is happening. I think it's fair to say already the meeting at the White House is happening. Things seem to be moving pretty quick. And Troy, as I was getting ready for this morning, I'm thinking to myself, my gosh, to go through such a change in the administration and to be there in D.C. while this is happening and to be involved in the process, Troy, what's that like?
Well, it's an interesting process to watch happen. People don't realize, but there's probably at least 8,000, probably more, presidential appointments that happen when an election occurs and you're changing different administrations. So whether this was a Harris win or a Trump win, all the agencies, all of the department heads, everything that has a political aspect to it is going to change hands. And so that's what we're going to see over the next couple months. It's an exciting time, but it's also a very challenging time because we need to get ready for a new administration and a new Congress. And we need to make sure they understand the important role that the U.S. ethanol industry will play moving forward.
Right. One of those appointments that seems to be out there, and I believe that this one still needs approval by the Senate, is Lee Zeldin to head the Environmental Protection Agency. What's your reaction at RFA to Lee, an EPA led by Lee Zeldin?
Well, I will tell you candidly, Chip, that I don't think anyone had Lee Zeldin on their bingo card to run the U.S. EPA. However, we have some interaction with Mr. Zeldin back when he was a U.S. House member. We have a member in New York who has had some interaction with him. Seems to be a fair person. And from everything I can tell, he will be bringing a more business and economic development perspective to the EPA, which will be a little bit of a twist from where they've been before. And really, if he's going to look at things from an economic perspective, we will make sure to remind him just the high value and economic impact that ethanol and other biofuels have had to the U.S. economy, and in particular, the rural ag economy. So those things are all going to be on our list of things to do when he gets confirmed. And it really should be a pretty easy confirmation process for him.
Okay. All right. He did propose some anti-RFS legislation, didn't he, Troy?
He did back in 2017. He was on a bill, but so was Governor DeSantis. And as we found out, when Governor DeSantis is running for president, he had a different perspective. So, and we have to realize Mr. Zeldin's going to be working for President Trump, and we go back to the first term of President Trump, and we had a supporter in the White House. He was very supportive of the U.S. ethanol industry. Year-round E15 was one of the issues that he took on personally to try and get done. So we would anticipate that the agencies that are working for him would reflect that same attitude. And we expect that same attitude to occur in Trump 2.0.
Okay. All right. Had to deal with a lot of small refinery exemptions during the first Trump administration. Is that something that we should anticipate again?
We did. Certainly had to deal with quite a few of the small refinery exemptions. It certainly could happen, and it's something that we will be watching out for. But it really is a different climate within the liquid fuel space than it was just 4 years ago. We do a lot of coordination and a lot of work together with the refineries, with the other trade associations representing those refineries, those folks that are seeing benefits within the Renewable Fuel Standard program that maybe didn't see that just 4 years ago. And I'm talking about those that are making renewable diesel and other different renewable products. So I think it's going to be a little different situation as we head into this new administration, but there's a lot of things to do there as well, Chip. We have to think about a new set and a new renewable volume obligation for the RFS past 2025. And so those are going to be things that are on the to-do list over at EPA in the next year.
Yep. Very good, Troy. Yeah, I agree. When you take a look at how the investment strategies of those that were requesting small refinery exemptions, SREs, under the Trump administration, a lot of those same companies have now made investments in renewable diesel and sustainable aviation fuel, and they are looking to work with the biofuels industry a whole lot more than what they were 4 years ago. I agree.
Yep.
Okay, what does the Trump election mean for 45Z and other biofuels tax incentives, Troy? It feels like the announcements on these have been pushed back. Do I have is that the right read?
Yeah, I think so, Chip.
Okay.
That is the $62 question. What is going to be the impact of some of these programs that have been established through the Inflation Reduction Act once President Trump and his administration takes over? There are programs within the IRA, obviously, that are benefiting red districts and red states, and 45Z is one of those that's going to be important moving forward. Unfortunately, we don't have guidance out yet by the Biden administration, so we're going to be looking for them to finish some work on that before the end of the year to at least get an interim guidance out for 45Z. And then that'll give us an opportunity to reflect on what it looks like and then express our concerns or our support for that in the new Trump administration. I think it's easy to say, though, Chip, that they will put most likely a freeze or a hold on any pending rules and regulations across the board. And that would be common with any change in administration. So there's going to be some kind of a delay to 45Z. We're not sure what kind of a delay. And then you have to think about the other priorities for the Trump administration, and that is getting his Tax Cuts and Jobs Act from 2017, a lot of those tax cuts extended. Those will run out by the end of 2025, and those have to be paid for somehow. So there's a lot of balls up in the air from a tax perspective. We knew 2025 was going to be a heavy tax year, and it certainly won't be disappointing us in that prediction as we see the list of items start to build.
Okay, Troy, help me understand this real quick, because there are so many guys out there. I mean, people come to me all the time and say 45Z is more important than getting a farm bill done. So that's why I'm going to ask this one last question on it. Does this mean that we should see 40B extended and then move the start of 45Z out 12 months?
Well, that possibly could be the strategy moving forward here in the next couple weeks. There was a letter that RFA signed on to today that would support extending the existing tax credits. That would be 40A, 40B. There's a second generation biofuel tax credit that our producers get for producing cellulosic ethanol. And those were to expire and be replaced with 45Z. So assuming 45Z has some kind of a delay in 2025, we're starting to put some thought to putting a tax extenders package together that would include all of these that were set to expire, to have those potentially extended for at least 1 year. While we figure out what the Trump administration plans to do with 45Z. So that does seem to be something that may catch fire here in the lame duck session.
Okay. All right. Troy, I could sit and talk about this all morning with you. Thank you for making time.
Anytime, Chip.
All right, Troy Bredenkamp, Senior VP Government and Public Affairs at the Renewable Fuels Association. We got the Farmer Forum coming up next. Chad from Illinois, Quentin from Nebraska.
Time for Markets Now with the experts from Pro Farmer.
Brian Grady currently indisposed, so we turn to our own Flip Chory chip. Pressure across that whole side of my screen there. Corn, beans, even the whole soybean complex being pulled lower here.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me take you back to about 7:30 Central this morning. The dollar was trading lower, and the grain markets were trying to show some strength. All of a sudden, the dollar put on about a 600, 700-point rally. Seriously, from low to high, got within 2 ticks of the 52-week high on the U.S. dollar index. And as the dollar was rallying, the strength just came out of the grain markets. The soft red winter wheat market in Chicago led the way to the downside, but the wheat markets were willing followers there. The soy complex also traded lower. We've got both soybean meal and soybean oil trading lower today. Soybean oil is down 120 points right now, and all of that is putting a little bit of pressure on corn that's 2 to 4 cents lower. And I said it yesterday afternoon, I'll say it again right now. Corn feels like it wants to trade higher because we've got some decent demand that's coming in here.
Indeed. All of this that you just said in the context, crude oil, the WTI is slightly higher on the day here, but let's get to the livestock where the cattle complex seems to be holding in there.
Yep, cattle complex is trying to push to the upside. The Dees contract, the Dees live cattle contract is the only one showing a little bit of pressure right now, and it's because of strength in the cash market. It's because of strength in the box beef trade. Lean hog futures trading under some pressure here today. I think that's mostly just in a setback from yesterday's gains.
Yep, that's exactly right. Well, that was our own Chip Flory right here on Markets Now. Opinions expressed on AgriTalk do not necessarily reflect the views of Farm Journal Broadcasting, affiliate stations, or sponsors. When news breaks, the news makers talk about it on AgriTalk with Chip Flory.
Well, I heard he needed some help on the farm.
Here we go. It is time for the Farmer Forum here on AgriTalk. Glad that you are with us on this Wednesday morning. Let's kick it off with Chad Leman. Chad's over in Illinois. Chad, it's good to talk to you again. How are you?
Yep. Good to talk to you as well. Thanks for having me on today.
You bet. You bet. Glad you're here, man. How'd things finish up there for you in Illinois?
Really good. Very fortunate here in central Illinois. We had kind of just-in-time rains all summer. And from a yield standpoint on corn and soybeans, it was just a record-setting year. And so crops in the bin, still working through tillage and manure application and fertilizer, but no complaints. Really feel blessed how this year turned out.
Chad, every time that we get to the end of another growing season, it seems like somebody somewhere in Illinois is talking about, we're so blessed, we had record yields. It just keeps building on itself, this yield potential in Illinois.
I don't know what it is, but I would say almost across the board, yields were 10% higher than previous highs, and it wasn't like we had an overabundance of rain, but it was in time. Of course, our land costs here are considerable, as you know, so we need that. But I don't argue with you. It's been a string of some pretty good years here.
Yeah, and the genetics that you are putting out in the field. I mean, it's not cheap genetics that you're putting in the field, but they seem to work and work really well. So we've got to keep that in mind. So
no doubt,
okay.
No doubt. I often think about if my grandpa could see what's going on now, he'd just shake his head. Yeah, pretty crazy. All right, stay right there, Chad. Quentin Bowen from Nebraska joins us right now. How you doing, Quentin?
I'm doing well, Chip.
All right. Doing real fine, real fine. How'd things wrap up for you there in southeast Nebraska?
We got lucky this year. We started the growing season out with, I remember talking to you when you were on crop tour, and It was hot and it was dry, and you were checking those soybean fields, and they finished just about the way you said they would finish if the rain pattern stayed away through the rest of the growing season. I mean, corn was one of the best corn years. I don't think it was a record for anybody. It might, but it was right there if it wasn't. And soybeans were better than average, but far from a record. I don't know. 5 years ago, we would have been the technology in the seed. You go back to that. The advances the soybeans have made the last 5, 6, 7 years is pretty amazing, because with the kind of August we had, we would have been 20 bushel soybeans, I think. Instead, we were over double that. So it's pretty incredible.
Yep. What does the older generations there at Bowen Farms have to say about how these crops yield? There's always multiple generations of Bowens at the crop tour meeting there in Nebraska City. What do they say about how things are performing?
Well, as the season goes by, you can always throw in that other guy that's talking to you at crop tour, Lynn. They all have their opinions, and I'll say something like, well, I think that corn can still make this, and they will say things like, you're crazy, there's no way, you're way too optimistic, son, you got to get real. And then when we harvest it, I tend to be a little closer usually than they are, but nobody remembers that. So I probably just got myself in trouble, Chip.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, I love it. Love it. All right, Chad, how's the pig business in Illinois? What do we need to know about what's going on over there?
Well, the pig business is good. I don't ever remember a year where cash prices have just kind of run between, say, 85 and 95 since March, maybe.
Yeah.
We didn't get crazy. It didn't get crazy in the summer like it sometimes does, but it stayed at profitable levels. And I mean, cutout was down about 4 yesterday, but it seems like that thing kind of seesaws around anyway. But to have cutout still running around 100 is highly unusual for this time of year. And so, a lot of your listeners don't like to hear this, but $4 or sub $4 corn just works out really well to feed the pigs.
Yep.
And it seems like there's a lot of $4 corn out there right now to feed the pigs. So it's been good. It's been good.
Yeah. Yep, Chad, and the other thing is, as we've gotten into the fourth quarter, we were looking at that last quarterly hogs and pigs report and kind of expecting the slaughter numbers to bulge on us, and it just hasn't happened. Now we're making the pigs heavier. I should maybe not. Maybe not. We're making those. The pigs are heavier than what they were a couple of years ago, but year on year the gains are pretty modest right now. But the pigs just don't seem to be there. Is that what you're picking up from the countryside?
Yeah, that's right. And I think that we are shipping them a little bit heavier right now. Not crazy, but I mean obviously those additional pounds are pretty cheap at the end. Yeah. But as I go back, you look at the PRRS breaks that have occurred over the summer months, or late spring, early summer, and those are manifest now in the market pig numbers. And so I think you're seeing a little bit of a PRRS hole that is coming through right now. Okay. And then that Smithfield reduction in sows in Missouri that nobody really knows how many head that was. But I think the combination of both have contributed to just fewer pigs coming to market right now. And man, it's been a lot of Saturdays in a row we keep shipping pigs, and packers are running Saturday shifts, which is also unusual.
Yeah, no doubt. Quentin, what about you? How's the pig business there?
Well, growing pigs in Nebraska, like I told Joe yesterday when he was talking, Chad and I were going to be on. I said, I bet, the Illinois farmers' crops are always better than mine. And I bet his hog manure even smells better because it just, I'm a part of that company, Brookwood Farms. I grow purebred Berkshires. And as long as I don't pay a lot of attention to the regular hog market, but when business is good for them, it's great for us. It's hard to sell a premium meat product when hogs are in the tank. So it's good when it's good for everyone.
Good. I love hearing that. The hog producers and the hog industry need some breathing room here, and it's nice to see that we're getting some. Okay, Chad, let's talk elections here. Congress is back this week. When you take a look at everything that needs to get done, what gets to the top of the priority list for you?
Well, I mean, as I think about a potential farm bill, we've been asking for it for quite some time. And I've been to D.C. twice, and I continue to, through Illinois Pork, work with our own legislators on a farm bill. And as you and I have talked about several times, this Prop 12, we need a Prop 12 fix. Yeah. And it really, the only vehicle for it really is through a farm bill. And so in this lame duck session, do we get a farm bill pushed through or not? I don't know, but at least with the legislators we have in place right now, we've taken the time to educate them on this issue and help them all understand the implications of it. And now as you think about a new Congress being seated, you almost, have to re-educate everybody and start from go on why this Prop 12 is so harmful to us. So it will be interesting for me to watch and see who gets put in or who gets nominated for this Secretary of Ag position and whether this farm bill has any legs during lame duck.
Yep. Are you pulling for anybody on that farm, the USDA secretary, Chad?
I was going to ask you that question.
Okay.
I kind of want to know what you're thinking, but I mean, as I looked over the list of names, I mean, there's a lot of good candidates there. I'd say, Kip Tom's just over in Indiana and would bring a lot of that Midwest corn, bean, wheat type of knowledge to the role. And so from a selfish standpoint, you kind of like to see a Midwest guy put into that role, but your listeners would be across the board on that, I'm sure. What are your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's 15 people on that list, and okay, Quentin, this is going to be this is going to buy you a little bit of time for this because I'm going to ask you the same question. Here's the list that we've got right now at Farm Journal. Jim Wiesmeyer, Tyne, myself, Clinton, we've worked at putting this together. Kip Tom, Charles Herbster, Sid Miller out of Texas, Sarah Fry, Greg Dowd, Abel Maldonado, Zippy Duvall, Mike Conaway, Thomas Massey, Ray Starling, Ted McKinney, Doug Burgum, Ariel Skipworth, Cindy Hyde-Smith, and G.T. Thompson. That's 15 people on this list of potential secretary candidates. It's difficult to pick which one would be the best, but boy, there's a lot of qualified people on that list. We'll talk a little bit more about it coming up next on the Farmer Forum.
AgriTalk is brought to you by ESN. Don't risk your nitrogen investment. ESN is designed to beat the 5 ROI killers and provide season-long end to your crop. Learn how ESN works at smartnitrogen.com.
Welcome back to AgriTalk. It's the Farmer Forum. We've got Chad Leman from Illinois, Quentin Bowen from Nebraska. Okay, when we talk about the potential, who's going to be the next USDA secretary, Chad, you mentioned a couple of names that are high on my list there. Kip Tom, I think, is a really strong possibility. But Quentin, we cannot lose track of Charles Herbster, who's from Falls City, Nebraska out there. He was the national chairman of the Ag and Rural Advisory Committee during the Trump campaign. I mean, it could turn into payback for Herbster, right, Quentin?
Well, yes, I guess it certainly could. You know, I mean, Herbster ran for governor against our current sitting governor, Pillen, 2 years ago. And when he would come through the parades and stuff, you almost would think Trump was with him. I mean, the horses and the cars and the Trump signs, and he's been a very loyal Trump supporter. So yeah, and I guess Washington kind of runs with paybacks, don't they?
Yeah. And the thing about Kip Tom is he's been right beside Trump the whole way. Sid Miller, right beside Trump the whole way. Sarah Fry is such a compelling story with the pumpkin business out of Illinois there too, Chad. I mean, she gets plenty of attention in the state of Illinois, doesn't she?
Well, I was really surprised to see her name on your list there. I'm looking. Yeah. I got her book on my shelf, that growing season book, and it is quite a story that she has. I just don't think I'd probably put her in this role, but she does have quite a story.
Right. And then when it comes to trade issues, you can look at people like Greg Dowd, Ray Starling, Ted McKinney. I mean, Ted McKinney was in charge of trade at USDA. And then from the business point of view, you've got Zippy Duvall, Conaway, Burgum, Skipwith. And you know what? I guess a dark horse in all of this might be Cindy Hyde-Smith out of Mississippi, senator out of Mississippi. Don't lose track of that possibility. And I'll just end it with this. G.T. Thompson, I think, is deserving of the position, but I hope he doesn't get it because I hope he gets his farm bill done before he gets appointed to USDA secretary. So, yeah.
He's been a real champion for that farm bill and has a lot of working knowledge of it. So, yeah, I hate to lose him from that standpoint as well.
That's right. Yeah, Quentin.
Do you think, especially with 15 candidates or so on the list here, I mean, didn't in Trump's first term, wasn't like the ag appointment, director appointment, the very absolute almost last appointment he made, and it strung on almost into his inauguration? You think it'll take that long again?
I think it was the day before the inauguration. No.
Was it?
No, I don't think that. It might have been. It might have been. Or very close to it. Is it going to take that long this time? No, I don't see any way that it's. Yesterday when Davis was talking about some of the appointments, I almost said that President Trump was making his selections at a hurried pace. Well, it's not a hurried pace. He's just doing it and getting it done very quickly, much more quickly than any other incoming president that we've ever seen. Well, really, I guess it should be no surprise. He kind of knows what the jobs require. He is wanting to hit the ground running. I would think that having his selections for the administration has been high on his priority list for quite some time. Okay, when we talk immigration issues and deportation efforts, Chad, what do you think of? I mean, if there's going to be some workplace raids, this might disrupt the meat markets, couldn't it?
I just have a hard time thinking there's going to be workplace raids. I mean, I look at our own operation and the Hispanics that we have here, and we've used the TN visa program over the last few years to really benefit us. And then a year or so ago, that TN visa program just got gutted. I mean, the State Department got so crazy with rejections that we just couldn't hardly get. I mean, the pork industry as a whole couldn't hardly get a visa passed because of various reasons. And so I know on our farm, I have offered to host State Department officials to come out and actually show them what kind of work we're asking these TN visas to do, so that we could get that program back up to what it was 3-4 years ago. So I really think if we could get these programs working like they actually did and should, I think we'd be just fine. But I'm not at this point, I'm not that worried about deportation.
Okay. Interesting. Quentin, where does the trade issue fall on your priority list? I mean, it sounds like we're going to have to deal with tariffs fairly early in the administration.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that whole situation. It seems like since 2016, 17, 18, when the trade wars really got going, and the way China has moved away from us, and the investments that have been made in the Southern Hemisphere, I don't know. I guess is it going to be a big effect on us, because everything's kind of moved away and not really came back, has it? You know, I mean, I know there's the talk about John Deere and the tariff, but I don't know. I guess we lived through it before. I'm not up at night about it, I guess I'll say.
Okay. Yeah. No, you guys, I think those reactions on both of those fit really well with some of the other comments that I've been hearing from the countryside out there. No doubt about it. You guys were great today.
Well,
Thank
Chip,
you so much.
I guess the one thing we got to be careful of is Mexico. I mean, from a pork standpoint, we need Mexico.
Yes, we do, Chad. Yes, we do. Chad Leman, Illinois, Quentin Bowen in Nebraska. Thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you guys later. Come back this afternoon for Davis.